We got it, Spence. We got it. We got one prediction right. Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. We picked Crawford. Give us your top-line feelings on what you think of the fight.
Do you know what, Simon? It was like we had watched the fight before it had happened.
Absolutely.
Because that's the way it went.
In the presence of genius, and you don't even know it.
Absolutely. We actually called it. We said, look, listen, that Terence Crawford would build up an early lead, and when he had to bite down, when he had to do it, that ninth round especially, he stood there and showed that he could trade with him, and he could take the shots, and he could mix it. And the difference between the two was, like we said, Duke, was the combination punching, the ring control from Terence Crawford. They were all the question marks. Could he do that? Could he cope with the power of Canelo Alvarez, who's adapted now and had to adjust in his career? He now throws single shots. And that's why it was the calculated gamble. Well, it wasn't really a gamble because me and Simon called it from the beginning.
Right.
That we go, Mayweather ticks every department. You go, the only thing that people are hedging their bets on is that Canelo's the bigger guy, but he wasn't really anyway.
No.
You can see, because Crawford come down from 185 anyway, you can see the physicality's in there. He was all the size of Canelo.
As Edward said long before this fight, I just think styles make fights. And Canelo's style, this style of Canelo, was suited for Crawford.
Indeed.
He can't throw combinations anymore. There's no more head movement from Canelo.
Yeah.
He tries to walk people down and hit you all over the body and all over the head if he can, but he can't put his combination. He can't sustain the combinations. And what really impressed me about Crawford was the fact that it was a question of, like, he didn't want to trade off early with Canelo. He traded late with Canelo because he couldn't take his power early. So in the early rounds, it was just pity-patting and just tapping him, kept spinning him, kept turning him and driving him mad. And then in the later rounds, as Canelo started to fade, from round 7, round 8, as the pace got a little bit slower, then Crawford's confidence, he was confident enough within himself to stand and trade with him. And even when he got on inside, he was hitting him with like 3s and 4s, hard shots, constant shots, and just kept spinning him, kept turning him. And Canelo didn't really know where he was. And another great thing about Crawford, stayed southpaw throughout the whole fight. And Canelo admitted after that he couldn't handle a southpaw.
Couldn't work it out.
Couldn't work it out whatsoever.
Adam, we had Paulie Malignaggi on the show the other day with myself and Jim, and I want you to have a listen to what he had to say and see what you think of it.
I think Canelo has been, for a while, a diminishing fighter. Call it age, call it whatever other things you want to call it. But I just think that, the only reason he's even still around at this level is because he's avoided his top contenders in his weight class, so he's been able to still remain champion at that weight class. He'll actually do what he blames Benavidez doing, which is, quote unquote, being a weight bully. He'll do that to other guys and actually bring them up in weight. I think when you have that kind of name, you have a responsibility to make things, the best for boxing. And I think he just looks out for Team Canelo instead of Team Boxing. And at a certain point, it is about money, but he's made so much money already. He really has a responsibility to help the sport, and he's doing anything but that. People like him are the reason people complain about boxing and say, "Oh, this is why MMA became more popular." Not to say that I have a competition with boxing and MMA, but those people have a point. In boxing, the best fights a lot of times don't get made, and people think of the biggest names possible when they think about that. And a guy like Canelo Alvarez has behaved exactly that way.
I mean, Paulie has an extra grind there to some extent, you'd think. But is this fight? I mean, I looked at Saul Alvarez and I looked at the opposition he's been fighting recently, and I felt to myself, fighting William Skell and Berlinga before that, and going in against Crawford has undone him a little bit, because Malignaggi's attitude is he picks and chooses, and we all think he ducked Benavidez. So by fighting an opposition that's not as good as it needs to be to go in against Crawford will have hurt him. At the same time as people were suggesting that Saul Alvarez picked Crawford at the perfect time when he'd been inactive and come off the back of an operation. What the operation was, we don't know. And so they thought they got Crawford at the right time. Was this a great fight with a great performance by Crawford, or was it a diminished Saul Alvarez that Crawford beat?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, I do miss commentating with Paulie Malignaggi.
He's great,
I absolutely adore him.
He's fabulous, isn't he?
And I see exactly what he's saying. However, Canelo is a legend. I, like you two, thought Crawford would win the fight, and I thought it would be as comfortable as that. I just worried about the Vegas judges, and they were a little bit tight. I thought it was a dominant performance.
Did you see
Crawford.
the AI scoring, by the way? They scored it a draw.
Unbelievable. I mean, that is just
preposterous.
Yeah, ridiculous. So Was it a great fight? I mean, it was a great occasion.
Yep.
It was a magnificent 12 rounds, but as a great fight, no.
Never
Was it a great
did it?
performance? Yes. Terence Crawford did exactly what he needed to do. I knew within 30 seconds of the fight that he felt comfortable. It was all about whether he'd get into that rhythm, utilise that southpaw advantage. He has the IQ, the ring generalship, and Canelo is slightly on the slide, the William Skull performance, etc. See what Paulie's saying. But yeah, don't take anything away from Terence Crawford. This was his coming out party on Netflix, and people don't know Terence Crawford if you walk down the streets. They know a bit about Canelo, and they know obviously the Furies, the Joshuas, but this was his moment, and I always felt
Were you surprised about his outburst in the press conference afterwards? Because I didn't think that he would say those sort of things, because ultimately he was talking about the opportunities that had been denied him. And it might be because the balance of the purse was going 100 million to Canelo and 50 million to him, which is, not bad quid if you can get it, is it? And he was talking about the opportunities that have been denied him and that he'd not been given. Well, if you're a three-weight undisputed champion, you've had opportunities, haven't you? Were you surprised with his sort of vitriolic, disdainful attitude towards the system that hadn't allowed him?
Simon, Crawford seemed almost deflated after the fight. He seemed almost deflated, but I think that was more to the fact that he knew he was going to win. He knew that I don't think he's had an easier fight than that against Canelo.
But Duke, when you box and you're boxing a fight of that sort of magnitude, but when you box and you was defending your world title, and myself when you're boxing for the European title, when you get that victory afterwards, why is it that you hit that depression? Because everybody does it. You have
you put so much into it.
I used to sit there. I'd wake up the next morning and go like, why?
But did you see
so low?
Did you see the way the American media seemed to be characterising this for Crawford, which would have irritated me, which was this is a legacy fight that you can go out of this fight and ultimately be judged in a completely different way. This is a two-weight undisputed world champion whose apparently career was going to be defined by if he won or lost this particular fight. So if he goes up 3 weight classes, OK, one of them, he's fought at an interim weight class, but really he's a 147 fighter. And the American media, which really annoyed me, because Max Kellerman going in the ring, and I'm not asking you to comment on fellow commentators because you'll probably sit on the fence on this one, why does the question have to be, is this your last fight?
Yeah,
why can't it be, look at what you've achieved, look at this moment in time?
It should have been that achievement. It was a phenomenal thing that Terence Crawford has done. We all picked him, and that's fine. But Canelo is Canelo. 67-odd, 68 fights in, a multi-weight champion himself. It was an incredible performance.
Guys, can I add something? Can I add something here as well? And trainers take note of this as well. The corner, Bomac and his second in the corner, he was giving the instructions,
great, wasn't he?
silence, and then he says to his second, you got anything to say? Calm, perfect when you've got a fight like that. And that is for any trainer to take note, because we're talking all the time about the chaos that's in the corners and that affects the fighter, and the fighter needs that calm around him. That was the way to do it.
Beautiful, wasn't it, between the two of them?
Honestly, it was amazing.
Personally, I think it was a masterclass of boxing, because the way that he handled Canelo and made it look so effortlessly, made it look so easy. He knew he couldn't trade off with him in the early rounds, so he boxed him. And when Canelo, when Canelo wanted to try and fight him, he just kept him at the end of the jab, and he couldn't get past that jab. It was an absolute masterclass. Because you look at the little feints and the little twitches, the little stepping off, the little head roll, and even in the last 2 or 3 rounds, and from the 9th round onwards, when Crawford held his feet and traded off with Canelo, it was always one punch ahead. It was always one step ahead.
That ninth round when he decided to hold his feet and sit in the pocket and trade with him.
Wasn't that great?
That was unbelievable because he beat him his own. And then in the 12th round as well, he stood there, he put it on him. You go, right, you've got this in the bag now. But he wanted to go out on a high.
But that was great observations from Andre Ward, wasn't it? We were talking about, is he getting too greedy? He said, well, he set his table, let him eat what he wants, I think, now.
And he did eat what he wanted. And it was fantastic. Doesn't it seem a long time since he beat Ricky Burns all those years ago? And I remember watching that thinking, this guy's good. I mean, I'd never thought he'd
go to this level.
Do this.
Is there any appetite? Do we have any appetite for a rematch? I mean, I think we've seen what we need to see.
I'd like to see a rematch.
Would you?
I would as well, yeah.
Why? Because Canelo's going to have the bit between his teeth, right? And he's going to be saying to himself, as he did for his first fight, I've got all my Mexican fans, I've got fans worldwide, and I'm going to turn this one around. But he won't be able to.
He can't, can he?
No, he absolutely cannot.
I think he admitted, Duke, in the press conference after, didn't he? He said, I just couldn't figure it out. You're talking about the brilliance, and we've talked about the brilliance, myself and Simon, on numerous shows, saying, where does he fit in as an all-time great? You go, well, he's just answered that now. And you go, when we were talking about, let's say, welterweight is his prime weight, you go, he goes with any of them.
Yeah.
And now that sort of backs it up. You go, to jump up the way that he's jumped up, and whether Crawford is on the slide. Canelo is on the slide, or he's not on the side, or he's had to adapt. He still beat a great champion.
Canelo's legacy is intact, and he's a brand, and he's been unbelievable for the sport of boxing. But Terence Crawford beat him easily.
Is it?
Do we want to see a rematch? I don't think it'll be any different.
Is his legacy intact? It's got to be a smack in the face for a guy that's come up 3 weight classes, albeit he's fought one at 154.
He'll always
go up to 168 and beat him, and
he'll be remembered as one of the greats of our generation. Crawford could be remembered as the greatest of our generation, and now the debate will be: was Mayweather?
Here it is. Where does the Canelo go off the back of that? He has to go back into the rematch. He signed this deal with Riyadh season. You know, he's got this free fight deal with Riyadh season. They will want to see that again because you go, where do you put Canelo otherwise? He didn't want to go in with Benavidez. No. Benavidez now moved up. You go, he has to go into the rematch. And for Terence Crawford, that's time to cash in because he wins the fight again.
And he'll always struggle, wouldn't he, Canelo, with those type of opponents.
Absolutely.
That performance from Canelo on Saturday night would have beaten just about anybody else in the super middleweight division. But that tells you just how special that Crawford is.
I agree.
Because Crawford handled him with relative ease.
The only other aspect is the constant conundrum around Undisputed is being able to retain all the belts, and one of the belts dropping off, and Canelo being able to fight for it without having to fight Crawford for it. And up steps our kid.
Yeah.
Hamza Sheeraz.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think going back to the performance as well, when you're talking about Terence Crawford there, because I want to talk about what great performance this was. When a fighter can get in there and do this tit-for-tat stuff and then switch it up and throw the shots, he is in his comfort zone, man. Like you're actually playing with someone. You know, like when you've got a fight,
the confidence, the swagger, the rhythm.
No, to be able to sit there and just pour away and whip in the shot and pour away, you go. He's in control here. Like he's having this.
Do you boys think he's currently the pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet?
You see, this is an interesting. It's an interesting one because
for itself.
See, I think I think you've got to bring Usyk into this conversation because Usyk can't go up another weight class.
No, he can't. But he could go down to bridgerweight.
No.
If he was if he was that good,
if he was
that, no, I'm just saying, if he wanted to become an undisputed three-time,
he doesn't need to go to any bridgerweight. No, but Alexander Usyk is the greatest fighter of our era, cruiserweight king, undisputed again at heavyweight twice. He's got to sort of sit almost in a world of his own.
Well,
but pound for pound through the weights, you've got to say Terence Crawford is there.
Yeah, but Terence has put himself in that argument for sure because what he achieved there with Canelo Alvarez, he's in the argument as pound for pound as well. So, I mean, you go, with Terence moving up the way he done, we thought he was going to win, but 90% of the people thought he was going to lose. That is an achievement.
The reason why I have to bring Usyk into the fore, because if there was a super heavyweight, I think he'd go up to that and win that division as well. But the fact is he can't go up another division. He's gone into the heavyweights and bashed a lot of them up.
He could drop down to... Let's just say...
To bridgerweight.
Let's just say drop down to bridgerweight.
Yeah, but there's no competition in that division.
Yeah, but then it'd be a 3-time undisputed, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but
you can't...
Let's mix it up. Let's mix it up here. Let's mix it up and have something that I'm going to say now is going to be completely wacky. Can Crawford move up to light heavyweight?
He's not big enough.
Nah. Can he do it though?
No, he can't.
We said that about super middleweight.
It's a big gap, super middleweight.
It is, but I'm asking the question. You're talking about brilliance.
No, he can't. And Bo Mack has already said that.
Well, look who's in there.
Bivol.
Yeah.
Do you think
I don't
we saw Bivol do to Alvarez what Crawford did to Alvarez in his own weight class?
I didn't say he can move up. I said I was asking the question.
No, that's a stupid question.
I was asking the question.
But we see Mayweather, De La Hoya, Crawford, all those Tommy Hearns, all the years move up through the weights. Usyk can't go any higher. He's the heavyweight champion of the world.
Not light heavyweight.
Okay,
he can't move. He's not physically big enough.
Just before we wrap this up.
You want to ask this question? I was going to because I'm leading the show.
Go on then.
Does a prime Crawford, which we think he's probably just at that point now, maybe just coming to the end of it, does he beat a prime Floyd Mayweather?
Sneak my question.
I know, that's why I wanted to get in because I read the schedule and I thought I'd like to ask that question.
No, not for me.
Mayweather's the greatest I've seen and commentated on.
I think he does.